I have spent a lot of money on these high ticket coaching programs, and I'm not dissing them. I'm not saying that they're not worthy, although I've spent a lot of money and the value I received, not that great. But those decisions were made in pressure. They were made in urgency. Hey, everybody. It's Jennifer Dawn here. Welcome back to a new episode of the Happy Productive Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about decisions, and why you can't think your way into a better decision. Now, I have always prided myself on my ability to think on my feet, be super quick, come up with, stay ahead of the curve. And as a business owner, we make a lot of decisions in our day to day. And in fact, studies say that a typical human being is going to make anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000 decisions in a day. And many of those decisions are happening unconsciously, right? Our system is just automatically doing it. Now, as a business owner, our decisions get compounded even further than that because we have the pressure of our team and what do I do and revenues and marketing and finances and all of these things on our plate. So the decision making for a business owner is even more exaggerated. And in fact, we can be making up to 30,000 decisions in the course of a normal day. And that's an exhausting amount of decisions that we are making. Now, I was taught to make decisions up in my head, right? Gather information, weigh the options, make the rational choice. And I think that business owners, especially, we kind of pride ourselves, right, on being rational and reasonable and driven and logical. And we do need those things to make good, sound business decisions. But here's the thing that nobody ever told me, and I had to learn the hard way for myself, is that when I am up in my head, and you guys too, when we're up in our heads and we're making decisions from that logical thinking mind, our nervous system has actually already weighed in. And it's already weighed in, and that information is really and truly being used in our logical mind, even if we don't realize that's what's actually happening. Okay, so let's break down decision making. And this is the kind of training, you guys, that I know on the podcast, I don't go super deep, but every Tuesday in my coaching program called Freedom Builders, every Tuesday, we go deep into these topics. And this was actually a training that I did around decision making. And I'm giving you a little slice of it here on the show because I think it's so very, very important. So, of course, any of these concepts that you're like, man, this what she's teaching is great, and I really want to go deeper with it. It's something that I do every Tuesday inside our Freedom Builders. Now, let's look at a decision. So when you make a decision is actually happening from three different places, okay? So three things are responding. Number one, what you think, right, up in your head. Number two is your body, how it feels in your body. And number three is your nervous system is weighing in on, is it safe or is it unsafe? But here's the thing that's most important for you to know. Your nervous system is always first, whether you like it, whether you realize it, your nervous system always weighs in first. So sit with that for a second. Every single decision that you're making, your nervous system has already weighed in first as to whether or not it's safe or it's unsafe. So for me, I had a safety rule that says I'm safe when I'm busy, when I produce, when I perform. So if my safety rule, and it's weighing in first, says, hey, we're safe when we're performing and we're producing. And then I make a decision to change my time management, which I did for years. I was like, okay, I need to work less. And my logical mind was like, hey, we know we need to work less. But working less wasn't happening. Well, it wasn't happening because my nervous system didn't feel safe working less. So even though I was like, hey, I'm going to not work so much today, and then things would pop up and decisions I had made and I had filled my calendar full, Like all of that stuff was happening to keep my nervous system safe. Okay, so when you're making your decisions and you're only making them from up in your head, like I was doing for so many years, you're actually losing 2/3 of all of your decision-making power because your nervous system is weighing in on what's safe and what isn't safe. And then for me, I was completely ignoring my body, how it felt in my body. So that's 2/3 of my decision-making power. So here I am going, day, click, click, decision, thinking I'm so smart, I'm so motivated, I'm so powerful, blah, 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 blah. But then I look back now and I realize I put so much more work on my plate than was necessary. And I actually made a lot of bad decisions that if I had understood my system and if I had sat with it in my body, that I wouldn't have made. And even now, knowing all of this, I make decisions very, very differently now. And I don't make decisions fast in a rushed way. I slow down, I sit with it. It might be a few days, it might be a week. And you know what? In a week, if it's still the right decision, it's still the right decision. And the fear of, oh my God, I have to decide now or I'm going to miss that opportunity. It's all just fear. It's all noise. It's just noise and fear. And I don't listen to any of that stuff anymore. Or if I do hear it, I perceive it a lot different. So, but back to decisions, okay? I'm getting off on a tangent here. So let me bring it back here. So decisions. Have you ever made a decision? I'm going to hit the revenue goal, work less, lose the weight, do my self-care, whatever it is, right? I've made a decision that this is what I'm going to do. And then you watch your own behavior not align with that. So I decided that I'm going to do this, and yet my behavior, I'm over here doing these things. I'm procrastinating. I'm making excuses. I'm not showing up. And I see it. I see my behavior's not lining up, and might even be making some reasons as to why. But it's like that alignment. I come back to alignment. And if you're watching me on video, you can see my hands, like alignment. So I've made a decision on this side, but my behavior is over here, and the two are not matching up. And because they're not matching up, I'm not getting the results that I really want to get. One of the examples I love to use is a budget. Of course, I'm a business coach. It's like, yeah, I run my business on a budget. That's a sound, good, logical business decision. However, when you make the decision that I'm going to run my business on a budget, it hits so many, so many underlying safety rules. So if you've made the decision, I'm going to run my business on a budget, and maybe you had to learn how to do a budget. Okay, fine. So you learned how to do the budget, but now you don't stick to it. You don't check it each month. You still overspend. You still undercharge. You're going into debt, like all of those things, right? You're not living by the budget. This is a great example of I made the decision to run my business on a budget, and now my behavior is not lining up with it. Well, it's not going to line up if your safety rules say it's not safe for me to live on a budget because now I am restricted, right? Now I'm restricted. Now I've lost control. Now I can't be the kind of business owner who just, buys things for people because it's, outside of our budget or it's not on our budget, right? I don't want to be that kind of a leader. So all of those things start coming into play. And this is where you get out of alignment. And it's like, even though you logically know you've made a good decision, the behavior doesn't line up with it. So these are things that your nervous system is always weighing in on. Will I be abandoned? Will I be judged? Will I belong? Will I lose control? Will I lose my role? Will I lose my sense of purpose? Like all of these things are at play in your system. And remember, a perceived threat in any of those areas is going to override that perfectly good logic and decision and drive that you made, and it's going to take you in a completely different direction. And I certainly had no idea this was happening to me. And I see this with my clients as well, that they have no idea that it's actually happening to them. But once we get in there and we start coaching and we start learning, and we have a greater understanding and awareness on how our systems actually define safety And that is being factored into every single decision that you're making. For me, it was like the light bulb came on of like, oh my gosh, like this made for me more sense than probably anything ever has. And it's funny right now, I feel it in my gut. Like it just felt so true and so real and so what I had been looking for all these years of all the personal growth that I've done. Like this was the answer of understanding why I did what I did. And even if it didn't make logical sense, right? Like I knew if I had, I'm going to use the budget. I knew if I had a budget and then I wouldn't check it, or I would overspend, or I would just use the credit card, or I would just make these decisions that were out of alignment with the budget I decided to live on. And I drove myself crazy and I was really, really hard on myself and maybe even harder because I helped so many of my clients like do this for themselves and I wasn't able to really fully do it for myself. But this was the answer of understanding, oh, every decision I made, my nervous system was weighing in first. So as I started to slow down, that is probably the thing that I say the most, and I love it when somebody else reminds me to slow down and take a big deep breath. We're going to do it right now. Just take a breath. Take another one because it feels really, really good. Slow down, slow down. And when you slow down, you're bringing in some space. So we're putting space in between whatever happened, right? The event, the trigger, the whatever happened, and your response to it. Remember, the nervous system is weighing in before your logical mind actually gets involved. In fact, now that I notice this, my mind is so slow compared to my nervous system and my body, which are weighing in first. But if we can consciously just take a breath, slow it down, bring in some calm, and I have a beautiful framework that I teach my clients, and I would love to teach you as well for how to bring it back down and get grounded, get present, and put some space in there. Because when you start to slow down, I'm going to say slowing down is actually a leadership skill, and navigating from calm is 100% a leadership skill. And it's probably the most underrated decision-making tool that you have available to you is the ability to just take a breath, slow things down, put a little space in there. And you can do it in the amount of time that it takes you to take a big deep breath or a second big deep breath. We're talking like 10 seconds, 15 seconds, all right? It doesn't take a lot of time. If you are like, oh, no, that's going to take too much time, that's a story. It keeps your attachment in place and it keeps you operating in a very, very different place. So if the only thing that you take away from today's show is slow it down, take a big deep breath, and create calm in your system. When you start to create calm, now clarity can arise. Your decision-making power can arise. You're listening to your body. You're listening to your system. And that truly is the best way to make decisions. When you're not doing this and you're operating from pressure and urgency and rush, you are in survival mode. Your nervous system is in survival mode. And urgency is how you can recognize that of like, oh, am I, if I'm feeling urgent, if I'm feeling pressured, if I'm feeling stressed, yeah, you're perceiving threats, you're in survival, and you're not going to make your best decisions from that place. So just learning to get yourself regulated and calm and quiet before you make a decision is one of the highest leverage leadership skills that you can develop. And I know it goes against the norm. I grew up on, if you stop for lunch, you are lunch, right? All of that fear and that aggression, it goes against what we see out there in the business world today. But just have a little courage to go against it and try it out for yourself. I can tell you that I am never going back to all of the crazy pressure and urgency and stress because it burned me out. It burned me out. A year and a half ago, I was getting out of bed and I was functioning, but every day it was hard to get out of bed because this stuff had just caught up with me. And it was so not the right way to be leading my business and growing my business and navigating motherhood and a human being and my friendships and all of these things. It just burned me out and it hurt to be in this burned out place. And now that I operate from a calm place, a quiet place, now I see it so much more clearly. But until you have the courage to slow down, take a breath, look inward, stop blaming all the other people, places, events, and things that are going on in your life. Just, it's none of that. Okay. Look inward and slow down and start to develop a sense of calm. You probably won't be able to see it either, but I have faith in you. And I know that if you just slow down and start to practice this calm, you're going to start to feel it too. And it's really and truly a beautiful thing. So, just a quick little recap. Every decision you're making, just know your nervous system weighs in first as to whether or not you're safe. And based on the rule that it's created, your decisions are going to follow that. So, it makes sense to me that you'd want to put a little space in there and slow it down just a little bit so that your nervous system does actually feel calm and it does feel safe before making a decision, especially big decisions about money and things like this. I have spent a lot of money on these high ticket coaching programs, and I'm not dissing them. I'm not saying that they're not worthy, although I've spent a lot of money and the value I received, not that great. But those decisions were made in pressure. They were made in urgency. In fact, so many of these sales programs, they're so good about understanding your pain and applying urgency, applying pressure. Oh my gosh, this is what you have to have right now. And so you make a buying decision and you drop 10 grand, 20, 30 grand, on a 2-month program that, yeah, you might learn a little bit from, but it doesn't actually solve the problem. And then you're right back to where you started trying to solve the problem. Well, it's because it doesn't live in some high ticket program that focuses on tactics or strategy. It doesn't live there. And I'm speaking from a person who's done several of those programs. And yes, I learned some things, but no, they didn't solve the problem. But slowing down, going deep, understanding my nervous system, that solved the problem. That solved the problem, and it solved it at the root. And when you start working at the root, everything above it shifts, everything above it changes. Okay, you guys. That's it for today's show on decisions. And I hope that you really sit with it. And if you need to go back and listen to it again, do it. And just be slow with it, be calm with it, take your time with it. Because every single decision that you're making in your business, and especially ones that involve pressure and urgency and a whole lot of money, I want you to put a little space in there before you make those decisions so you're really making the right decision. If you would like to learn more, of course, come join me in Freedom Builders. This is the kind of content that I teach every Tuesday. And we are in, depending on when you listen to this, we are in April. And April is marketing. And we've been talking about marketing from alignment. So think about the decisions that you make in your marketing and where you're going to spend your marketing dollars. And if your marketing isn't working or it is working, what's in alignment, what isn't in alignment? This was our topic for this month. And so everything that I'm sharing with you here on the podcast, we go so much deeper on and we really, really tie it into your business. Next month, we're going to be doing this for sales and talking about how to align your sales process and attract all those right new clients that are the right fit for you and are a joy to work with. Good stuff. So if you want more information, just hop on my website, jenniferdawncoaching.com. You can find out there about Freedom Builders, and you can also learn more about the next Wildly Successful You, either workshop or retreat that's coming up. Thank you so much for being here with me today, for spending time with me. Time is one of our most valuable assets, and the fact that you're spending it here with me today is a real honor, and I really appreciate everybody listening. All right, in our next episode, I'm going to talk about patterns, so it's not to miss. That's it for today. Get out there and have a happy, productive day, y'all. Bye. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to have you join us inside Freedom Builders, my coaching community for entrepreneurs who are ready to slow it on down, do the inner work, and build soul-aligned businesses that are happy, productive. Everything you need is linked below in the description, or you can visit my website at jenniferdawncoaching.com. I hope to see you there.